Okay, hi everyone, and welcome back to 7EDU's weekly open class. I hope that you are all having a great weekend and a beautiful Sunday. If you are new to our webinar, welcome. So 7EDU helps students with test preparation, college counseling, and overall academic help on all school subjects. Our goal is to help provide you with quality guidance for the students to unlock their unique skills and capabilities and develop academic confidence and success. We hold our online open classes like these to help the students and parents on various subjects such as AP, for example, SAT, ACT, and overall general tips and tricks for the students. So today's open class will focus primarily on how to study for an AP class. An AP class is a college credited class that you can take during high school, and these are taken most during junior and senior years. But if you are a sophomore, you can still take this class if you feel that you are ready and prepared for it. So let me introduce to you our instructor for today's class. It will be Sarah. She'll take the lead in helping you ace the AP exams. She specializes in AP US history specifically for us, and she will be our leading instructor for our AP US history course. She has over 20 years of professional teaching experience with 5 different degrees, and she enjoys guiding each of our students with her passion for teaching. And there she is on the screen if you want to say hello.
Hello.
Yeah. And then I'll go over the class outline in the next slide here. So the outline for today's class is Sarah will go over an overview of AP US history, as well as the content that is actually on the AP test, and she'll go through some problems of how they'll look like for you, as well as the common mistakes and tips that she might have for you. And be sure to stay till the way end because we'll have a Q&A section where you can ask Sarah questions specifically about AP US history or overall general questions that you have for AP. Just go ahead and send them into the Q&A box or the chat box, and we'll keep them and we'll ask at the end of the whole seminar. I'll go ahead and stop my screen share, and then Sarah can share her screen and start her portion.
Okay. Yeah, easier said than done. Okay, here we go. All right.
Perfect. Yep, I see it. And then go ahead and click on
it. But what I'm seeing is write your review.
Oh yeah. Go ahead and switch over to your open class PowerPoint slide, the tab that you have.
Okay.
It'll be your tab 3.
The top 3, yes. It says screen 1. And this is what I have.
Oh yes, you have to click on the tab for our PowerPoint.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead and click on the way upper hand, the tab that's for the PowerPoint that we just made.
Okay.
Tab's open, so go ahead and click the one for today's open class.
This one?
And then go ahead and share that. Yep, and then present.
Well, it says I'm already sharing, but here we go.
Go ahead and
okay. I'm definitely not one of these young kids who is tech savvy. So when it comes to the AP at the APUSH, it has a variety of questions. You'll have multiple choice questions. There's 55 of those. You're given 55 minutes. You have short answer questions. There's 3 of those, and you're given 40 minutes. You have a long essay question. Now there's 3 to choose from, but you only have to do 1, and you're given 40 minutes. Then finally, the document-based question, which is the DBQ, everybody's nightmare. It's 1 essay question. You're given 7 documents. They could be anything from an essay by a historian. It could be an actual document from the time period. It could be an article from the time period, a diary, journal entry. But you have to go through and you have to classify them and decide which ones you're going to use. The key is you need to use at least 3 out of the 7. But if you use 6 out of the 7, you get an extra point. So you want to be able to do that. And for that, you're given 60 minutes. 15 of it, they recommend that you spend just looking over your documents and categorizing them. Okay, now, when it comes to the AP history, U.S. history, they have seven historical thinking skills that you have to develop. The student has to develop this over the course of the class. One is historical causation. We have patterns of continuity and change over time. Comparison, contextualization, historical argumentation, which is a big one, because that is going to get you the extra points when it comes to the DBQ. You have to be able, in that one, you have to be able to create an argument and then support it with relevant data. Also, we have analyzing evidence and interpretation. So all those go together, because some you'll use more for the short answer, some you'll use more for the multiple choice, some will be the long essay and the DBQ. But you need to develop all of those, because they're all going to be interrelated over time when you're doing the test. Now, they have divided the American history class. The test is divided into eight themes and 9 time periods. And the themes are American and national identity, work, exchange and technology, geography and the environment, migration and settlement, politics and power, America in the world, American and regional culture, and social structures. Now with these, you're going to see these kinds of things when you're dealing with the theme of the historical thinking skill of continuity and change over time, because they'll deal with a theme and you have to analyze how did this change over time, over this time period that they're asking about. Now the historical time periods, they have 1491 to 1607. That only counts for 4 to 6% of your test. So you have to know things like the Columbian Exchange and all that, but it's not as in depth and fact driven as the other sections. You also have 1607 to 1754. That's 6 to 8%. Now from 1754 to 1980, those are worth, each one is worth 10% to 17% of the overall weight of the test. And then 1980 to the present, 4 to 6%. Now what usually happens when you're taking the class in school is they get bogged down in all these from 1754 to 1980. And I've had students say, well, we haven't covered anything past 1955. And so you have to do this mad dash to the end. And a lot of times the teachers just don't have time. But that's where I come in, because I will be reviewing that material, showing you how to use it, and all that stuff that you're going to need, because you want to get those points. You want to get as many as you can, whereas the DBQ and the long essay are where you're going to get a lot of points if you know what you're doing. And here are some sample questions. They'll typically, they're going to give you a graph or give you an excerpt, okay? And the excerpt could be from a historical document. It could be from a modern day historian. But then you have to go and you have to answer their questions, which in this case, here's an excerpt from Nathaniel Bacon from 1676. The question, which of the following types of evidence would best be used to support Bacon's argument in the excerpt? Well, here you not only have to be able to read this and understand what he's talking about, and keep in mind this was written in 1676. The language is different, the vocabulary is different. So you have to be able to comprehend this, and then you have to apply it. You have to look and critically look at it and say, okay, what would I use to prove this? What he's saying about the upper classes, the elite. Okay, in this case, the answer is D. Tax records would show the changes in the average incomes of Virginia planters between 1650 and 1675. Okay, you'll also have 3 short answer questions. Here's one, for example. United States historians have debated the role of collective security in determining U.S. foreign policy in the late 20th century. So using your knowledge of United States history, answer parts A and B. Okay, be careful. Some only have 1 part, some have 3 parts, some have 2 parts. You got to make sure that you answer all the parts. Okay, and answer the question being asked. Okay, so they want you to choose one of these organizations and explain to what extent membership in this organization was a continuation or a departure from U.S. foreign policy. Okay, well, in the 20th century, okay, but when you're doing these kind of questions, you also need to look at contextualization. You need to go back at the rule is around 50 years. You want to go back so that you can build up. This is how this came about, okay? Because they didn't all just get together one day and say, oh, let's have a United Nations. No, it started way back with Wilson and the 14 points, which didn't really go anywhere. And that was the predecessor, and it goes on through World War I, World War II, all that. Okay, so you have to look at the context that all this stuff happened, and then explain why one of the other options is not as persuasive as the one you chose. So again, you're analyzing. You have to take what you know from history. Okay, you don't have any documents for this one, so you have to take what you know and apply it to the question. Okay, document-based question, also known as the DBQ. Okay, for example, this one, evaluate the extent to which differing ideas of national identity shape views of the United States overseas expansion in the late 19th and early 20th century. And you'd use the documents they give. Remember, they're going to be giving you 7. You have to use at least 3. You want to try to use at least 6, because then you get the extra points. Now here, you got to, this is applying all those different skills, okay? The historical thinking skills. And here you definitely have to do the contextualization. You have to go back 50 years and bring it up to the time period. That way people, number one, you show what you know, and number 2, you can see how things changed or how they stayed the same, okay? And you can bring in the different themes. And then the sample long essay. Now here you're given 3 choices and you have to do 1. To what extent did the American Revolution represent change and or continuity over time in relation to how colonists reacted to the British imperial authority? Okay, here we see that change or continuity over time, one of the historical thinking skills. Okay, so again, you don't have any documents. You have to think about what you know, and you have to apply it, and you're given 40 minutes for this. Okay, some of the common mistakes. A lot of people may think that the multiple choice section is simply memorizing dates, people, events, kind of like maybe a multiple choice you might get in a regular history class. That's not the case. As you saw in the example, they'll give you a graph, or they'll give you a prompt, a excerpt from a modern day historian or a historical document. So you have to know, like with Bacon, you have to know who Bacon was. You have to know what was going on at the time period in order to answer the question correctly. Also, some people, they want to approach the essay, the short essay questions, or the short answer questions, as mini essays, because it's been drilled into you for so many years. You have to have an introduction, you have to have body paragraphs, you have to have a conclusion. But there's no need in this to construct that introductory or the concluding paragraph. It's just, you know, get it out there, short, sweet, to the point. Because remember, you don't have a lot of time and you want to get as many points. So we'll talk about a conclusion, okay, but it's not a concluding paragraph. It's not that involved. One thing here, it has to be written in complete sentences. It cannot be bullet points. You won't get credit if you just do bullet points, okay? And then the DBQ. Thinking that the DBQ is just another analysis paper. Oh, I've done that in English. I've done that here. No, that's a recipe for failure, because you have to take those documents and you have to, first of all, categorize them, okay? And then remember, they give you 15 minutes to read through, categorize them so you know which ones you can use. Then you pull the ones you're going to use. Then you have to develop your argument based on the prompt, and you have to provide the evidence from those documents, and you have to bring what they call outside information, which is what you know from your history studies. Okay, you can't just focus. You have to give it context, like I said before, 50 years before. And there's going to be over some kind of recurring theme that we went over earlier. So those are the things that you need to remember when you're preparing for these, because these are the things that are going to catch you if you're not prepared. If you think, oh, well, I can just go in and, you know, yeah, I know history and I can do this. I remember the dates and the people. No, that confidence, you can be overly confident, and that will knock you out real fast. Okay, for preparing for the APUSH, and you want to get a 5, that's the best score you can get. You have to become familiar with the multiple choice section of the test. You have to be familiar with what they're going to throw at you, okay? And you have to become comfortable with reading these excerpts, even if they're from the 16th century, or I mean the 16th century or the 17th century. You have to be able to read and comprehend them, okay? Because like I said, vocabulary is different, the sentence structure is sometimes different. You can't be intimidated, okay? And the more familiar you are with that, the format, as well as the information, the less likely the time limit will be an issue, okay? You'll know the stuff, you won't be agonizing, you'll be able to do it in a very efficient manner, okay? You also need to practice categorizing and analyzing documents associated with DBQs. Okay, and you have to use the 7 historical thinking skills that I talked about earlier. And you also have to remember with a DBQ, you have to bring in what they call outside information. That's what you know from your studies. Then understand the meanings and the uses of the 7 historical thinking skills. The historical causation, which is the long and short-term causes and effects of a historical event or process. We talked about patterns of continuity and change over time. Comparison is just simply comparing different what's the word I'm thinking of? The different documents that you would refer to, okay? And then we have contextualization, which I talked about, that's bringing you from 50 years back up to the time of the actual question. Historical argumentation, that's what you need to do well on the DBQ. You have to create an argument based on the information you're given and your own, and you have to be able to support it with relevant data. And those are the documents, okay? You have to be able to analyze the evidence, okay? And that's basically looking at it from what point of view is it coming from, who wrote it, what time period was it written, because it makes a difference. Okay, and then finally interpretation. You have to look at it as if you're a historian, and you have to compare their viewpoints, because historians have several different interpretations of any given event. But those are the things that I'll be going over in the class, and you'll be doing practice DBQs and practice short answers, and you'll be getting feedback. You'll also be doing multiple choice sections, and you'll see how well you do on that. So that's what you're in for. It will prepare you for what's ahead. So that's all.
Thanks, Sarah. I kind of want to go or start with our Q&A section. So let me go ahead and share my screen real quick.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Perfect. Yeah, so we're going to go to our live Q&A section. If you guys have questions specific to the AP US History course, or just AP in general, like some basic information, go ahead and add it to our Q&A box or chat box right now. But I do have some questions compiled from previous students and parents. So Sarah can answer maybe one to three about of them. Let me see here. So Sarah, in what grade should a student take AP, or do you recommend for them to start thinking about the AP classes, whether it's AP US History or just overall in general?
Well, typically students would take, like in 10th grade, they would take maybe an honors history course, and that this is like in a perfect world, and then take the AP in 11th or 12th grade. You know, 11th, you really don't have the option, you know, to retake it. So you want to make sure that you're well prepared, and that part of that deals with the individual student.
Yeah, and then I think we have a question on our Q&A box. Let me try and open it up real quick. It says here, how different is the APUSH exam from the AP Euro History exam?
It's basically the same format, just different material. Okay. That there's the same, they still have the DBQ, they still have the short answer. It's just a different material. It's obviously going to be focused more on European history. The US may come in occasionally, okay, like when you're talking about the French Revolution or something, but or how they helped us, you know, during our revolution. But other than that, it's just the difference in the material.
Thank you. And then let me go and see what other questions we have here. Are there any prerequisites? I guess it's kind of the previous question that we had about the honors course. Is it a prerequisite in order to take the APUSH?
No, it's not. It just might give some students an idea of what they have to deal with. But you can go right into an AP class, you know, that there's nothing stopping you from that. But just be aware that you're going to work. But you're also, you got to remember, you're getting college credit. So this is the equivalent of a first year US history class in college.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you, Sarah. And then one more question before we wrap up the Q&A, if no one, oh, I think I have another question here. Okay, and then we have another question here from the Q&A box. Why is it usually the US history exam more difficult than APUSH?
You mean the US history for SAT?
It just asks European exam. Why is it more difficult than APUSH?
Oh, there's more time to cover. That's why. And instead of just focusing on the US, you have England and France, and when Germany came into being, and Austria and Russia. So you have a lot more material to cover. We focus on the US and APUSH, But remember, Europe isn't just one country, it's several, and they cover it. So on that test.
Awesome, thank you. We also have another Q&A question coming. This asks, what is the best way to study during the year in order to be best prepared for the AP exam?
Well, we got to learn the material, but if you periodically, and I know if you're taking the class, your teachers will do this. They will get you used to taking doing short answer questions, and they will get you used to the DBQs. But the more you can practice, okay, the more you can get, so you can quickly categorize things and quickly analyze them and do it, efficiently and accurately. That's going to help you. Now, over the course of the year, it depends. I know some schools, their AP classes the whole, school year, and then others, it's just a semester. But the more practice you get, and that includes with me, because I'd be guiding you and reminding you. It's a lot of history to remember, and I'd be refreshing your memories about the Columbian Exchange, which by the time you get to 1980, you're saying Columbian what? So it's just a way with, I take you through, I help you understand the questions, what they were, why your answer was wrong, if it was incorrect, things like that.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that question. And thank you for the audience for putting a lot of the Q&A questions too. It's really nice to have Sarah interact with you guys. And then I'll go ahead and introduce the AP US History course that Sarah will be teaching this upcoming March. Let me share my screen here. Yes, so if you go on to our 7edu.online/AP US History, Sarah will be leading our course for this upcoming March 15th to May 3rd, and you meet every Sunday with Sarah here for AP US History specifically. And this is just a course overview that's being shared to your screen right now, so you guys can get a brief detail about it. If you are interested in learning more about it, of course you guys can call us, but for right now this is the temporary details that we can provide for you. So if your child is currently or planning on taking AP US History, if you're struggling with it currently, we highly recommend taking this course that's coming up with Sarah. And as you saw how her teaching style is, she'll be ready to teach your child and guide them completely through the AP US History course. So most incoming college students will be required to have a general history course completed. So if you ace the APUSH exam during high school, you're saving yourself more time and getting ahead so you can focus on your intended major courses, for example. Oh, we have another Q&A question here. Let me go ahead and stop the screen share real quick again. This one's kind of similar. Sorry, we're going back to our Q&A session real quick with Sarah. This asks, when is the best time to prepare and take for the exam? I think it's kind of similar to the previous question, kind of though.
Well, the exam is offered once a year. So if you're fortunate enough that your school has it for because I know with the AP government, it only was one semester. So you have the advantage if your class goes for the entire school year. It's just keep up with it. Don't wait till the last minute. I know, it's easy to do because when you're in high school, you got 20 million things you got to do. But, the class that I'll be teaching will help. You'll get feedback. We'll go over questions. But you have to become familiar with the test. And the more you become familiar, and even the more you do timed practices, the less important the time element's going to be. You won't be thinking in the back of your head, got to make time, got to make time, got to make time. It's going to be, oh, here's another one. And that's going to make a big difference. Like I said, you got to be familiar with it. You got to be able to read historical documents and not be thrown off by the language, vocabulary, etc.
Yes, we hope that answers your question, and thank you for adding another one. So yeah, when I was previously showing, Sarah will be teaching our AP US History course. If you are interested in the course, let me go ahead and put up on our slide what you can contact, so that way you guys can ask more about it. If you have more questions, if you needed more basic details, we can go ahead and give you that. So let me share the screen here. So if you have WeChat, you can of course scan the QR code to the left, or if you want to talk directly to our counselor, then there's the phone number as well. So if you have more questions about Sarah and the AP US History course, please go ahead and contact us either way. If not, we also offer other services for other APs, for SAT, ACT. But thank you so much, Sarah, for being our open class instructor today. You did a great job.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we'll leave this up for you guys. But yeah, today this concludes our open class. Thank you so much for joining.